computer. Hello, everyone. So welcome back to the podcast. So I've got a really interesting lady to introduce you to today. So her name is Citrina, and we just come across each other because we have a mutual friend. Now, this lovely lady, she creates the most amazing jewellery. So she channels it down from the Galactics. And I think they're all like individual pieces, aren't they? So you like tune into the person's energy, isn't it? And you pick up what they need. Is that how you create your wonderful pieces?
Yes. As yeah, I actually, it's such a thrilling process because when you connect to a person's energy, it's like I connect more, I would say, to their soul or their spirit imprint. And so the connection is usually very pure. It's like as if you see a child or a puppy or something like that. It's like an exciting process because I'm like in the receiving modality of like a soul's unfoldment. And that then translates into crystals. And usually for the necklaces, I will choose the three main crystals because the circuitry, it's almost like you can say bead circuitry, crystal circuitry, DNA circuitry. Okay. It's very strong and it's very potent. And I usually tell my clients and friends, when you first receive your piece, lie down, go into the mode of meditation, see what you receive. It's not necessary, but it's a good way to tune in what you're actually receiving and what's being activated, what's already in you, but it might be more dormant. So that's how the process goes.
Okay. So you've got a piece on there. I've actually not got any crystals on today, but so what is that, your personal one that you wear a lot?
That's my personal one. And I wear it a lot, but since I have so many necklaces, then I interchange. But this one, if you can see it, it's also a Tanzine aura necklace. And I've been wearing this one for a year now because for the previous 5 years, it was another crystal. And so once I design a personal necklace and circuitry, it holds up for a long time. It doesn't get used up right away. Okay. So, and I have that for my personal experience. And then suddenly one day I was being given a message, is like, it's time you change your personal necklace and create something special. So,
yeah, I interchange mine. I have them on a selenite disc that I put them on and let them charge. And I did actually have one on earlier, and then I put it on to charge it. I've just got a few bracelets on at the moment and a ring, but yeah, I liked it. But yeah, I saw that. It's like I
have about 3 or 4 bracelets on every day. Sometimes I choose them specifically. Sometimes, for example, if I feel I need great clarity in order to make certain decisions, I will take my personal Herkimer necklace, and it kind of like, it does like an instant like whoosh, and everything gets kind of aligned. So each of them have different functions, my personal ones, but the most important is the one that I'm wearing right now, because that is what I'm evolving over probably the next few years. And then what's also interesting, that once I made this one for myself, there was about 2 people coming in. They didn't need exactly the same, but similar with that particular main crystal, which is, they're like kind of like upside down pyramids. Yeah. So very important to draw an energy, but you can also emit. So so once you have your personal one, you work with it almost like every day, even if you don't wear it. It's an evolutionary process.
Yeah. Okay. And we did have a little chat earlier. So you do crowns as well. So you got one to show me. So would you like to show?
Yes. And I got this also, like my personal crystal. It's called Tanzine aura. And then I wrap it with wire, and then you get these extensions. so you can tie it around your head. Is at the third eye level. And this one also has a green tourmaline on top. So oftentimes there's a main crystal, and some others are woven in, like opals or rubies and stuff like that. And the crowns are like, I mean, both pieces are very strong, the necklace and the crowns, but the crowns are almost like a big commitment. You can meditate with it like every day. That's what I do personally still, since I don't know how many years. And then also they're important. Let's say if you're a grid keeper, or if you go to sacred places, and if you want to plant your energy there or receive, like, those crowns are very powerful for that also. And the necklaces too. So it's very interesting, because what happens in the process of wearing your personalized crystal device, I call them devices because it's not really adornment. What happens, you know, the more you wear it, the more the hidden strands of energy, DNA imprints, qualities, gifts, even from your ancestors, or as we talked about, galactic and angelic family, that is your personal family, all those things will start streaming in. And because we have this gorgeous physical body, but it is usually a gradual process to absorb more and more light and evolve your own spiritual being. So
so do you particularly channel from any galactics, or, you know, have you got a specific group? Like the Pleiades or something? I mean, I'm more Arcturian, that's my lot. So, but you would be more Pleiades, would you? Is that where you get your information?
It's interesting because you speak like an Arcturian. I can tell. I can totally tell, because Arcturians usually have a very beautiful diction, and they're very clear, like people who have Arcturian big imprints. So, so the way I connected to Galactics is actually the original way of how I connected to crystals. So I didn't know anything about crystals in about 2013, 14. I started having a lot of dreams and sometimes waking visions. And I started to understand that these are different galactic beings. And I started also with the Arcturians, because a friend showed me the videos by Janosch. He makes these beautiful sound and geometric activations, and they're Arcturian. So then I received a lot of dreams with galactics. I didn't know all of them at the time, and crystals. And in my dream, I was building like crystal grids with sometimes there would be otherworldly beings around, especially lions, feline beings that would kind of guard the ceremony while I was doing it. And I didn't know even that people do crystal grids, but I kind of understood, okay, there's something that I'm being gifted that I got to use. So I started buying crystals and make little grids at home. And then at some point I realized I had to go to certain places to activate there. And I started very small. I only had maybe like 10 crystals, but my first mission was to Costa Rica. And then I had a few others, but it was very interesting. I would just get a country and sort of a place. But then when I was there, I would use my pendulum, because I had to go to a very exact spot. Or in Mexico to a very exact pyramid. And as I love pendulums, because a friend taught me how to use the pendulum and stuff, I would misplace my favorite pendulum. And then one day I said, let me make a necklace with that so I can hang it around my neck. And then one of my friends then, I think it was around 2014, saw it and she said, oh my God, that's amazing. So I made her a gift. And then she posted it on Facebook. And then two of her clients said, oh, I want a necklace. And at the time I was making with some crystals, but mostly glass beads. So they were they were beautiful, but, you know, not such expensive materials. And for some reason, it took off from there. creating crystal tools and crystal necklaces. And I would already then get impressions what people needed, but that process got more refined, especially as most of my clientele is also like you, like they're psychics, channelers, a lot of them proficient spiritual people. So then the energies that come in have to be very accurate and usually on a high vibrating level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's fascinating. So the countries you visit, did you go to Egypt at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I grew up in Munich and I wasn't so much spiritual then, but we traveled a lot. So I've seen a lot of Europe. After I came here, the grid work places, there was only a few. So one was Costa Rica, one was a pyramid, a temple of Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl outside of Tepoztlan, I think you said Tepoztlan or something. It's actually interesting because the person that founded the Mayan calendar and also many other luminaries went to that particular town, and it has like a volcano and supposedly also galactic activity. So that was a really powerful trip too. And then I had to go to Bimini, which is I didn't even know that much that it was this Atlantean area. I knew a little bit, but I went to Bimini and I gridded there. That was very intense because sometimes when you grid places, there's like layers that are supposed to cover up the vortex energy and the pure energy that used to lay there. So actually always, whenever I go to do some grid work, it's very intense on the mind, body, and spirit. And I do know well how to protect myself. And even though, because there's so many layers there, especially the pyramid, when I went to Mexico afterwards, I had kind of like an experience. I felt like I was passing out for many hours. And one of my crystals, that is this color. This is called the Ruby Lavender Atlantean Wand.
Wow.
And I had one as a pendant. And I was walking around the airport. I was getting very, like loopy.
Yeah.
And I finally got back to the house of my friend. And this type of crystal had completely turned white. There was no more color in it. I've never seen it before or after. And then after I rested one night, the crystal turned back to this color. It was restored. So yeah, it's very intense, the grid work. And then since I have a big household and children and pets and stuff, I then concentrated more on just doing grids in my home. But sometimes I do get dreams for, let's say, once I got a calling for, make a grid for Uluru and a town close to there for Alice Springs, or sometimes there was Hawaii for Kailua. And if I get those dream instructions to make specific grids, I do always ask for permission. I don't just go for any kind of eruption or any kind of world happening and make grids. I ask permission if I'm meant to contribute, and then that's when I do them.
So you also make them at home as well, then, the grids?
Yes, now I have 2 grid tables. They're specifically designed for my crystal grids, and that is kind of my cosmic and energy work for free that I do. And also when new crystals come into the house, because now I also have a lot of crystal dragons and crystal star beings. Some of them I keep, some of them I sell. I put them on the table so they get cleared and activated by being with the crystals that have been here a long time. So
yeah, I saw a couple of pictures on your Facebook of your dragons, like dragon heads, weren't they? Oh yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah, they're lovely. Where do you get them from? Do you have a supplier that brings them? You get them delivered to you from?
I have my favorite supplier, but like with everything, production gets changed, style gets changed. So but what I do, I start a personal relationship with people, and that's how I get the beings I want. And then sometimes I take them off the internet or Etsy if something really catches my eye. Yeah. But that's also a process because, again, I channel all of these beings when somebody adopts them, usually, or when I post them on Facebook. And that brought a whole other stream of knowledge in. Also, actually fortifying galactic connections. We had mentioned the Arcturians, then I'm very connected to the Lyrians, and also the Orion Belt stars, Al-Nilam, Al-Nitak, and Mintaka. I work a lot with those energies. And the dragons and the star beings would bring in a lot of interesting information about space. And I didn't know a lot of it, but since let's say a dragon comes from like the Pleiades or a certain star, there may be certain type of nebula close to it, and nebula are always star forming places. And our DNA consists of like stellar elements and energy imprints. So I started to learn a lot about space and the nebula, especially because they were starbirthers. And this is how our human DNA is given to us, but it also expands. And so as new stars and new systems are born, we expand with them if we are receptive to it. So that's why I love also channeling them, because they bring so much beautiful information in.
Yeah, wonderful. So have you always been psychic or been able to do this work? Many of us have had it from childhood. Was you like it as a child?
I wasn't spiritually aware, and my family wasn't especially spiritual. So I did always have dreams and always wondered about them, and sometimes also visions, but I really couldn't put any consciousness on it. And I mostly was then interested in partying as a teenager and traveling the world and seeing how many different types of clubs there are in the world. And so, but then first I moved to Paris to study business for a little while. And because I always had that idea that I need to be able to reach around the globe of Earth. And I thought, if I become a business person, I'm going to get one of those jobs where I fly to, Dubai, and then I fly to Brazil. And I had this imagination. And then when I came to New York to join my family again, my sister especially, who had moved there earlier, I started my path in Sufism, like the whirling dervishes. And I met a teacher who was from Turkey. He was already advanced in age. And I just fell in love, like heads over heels. Like I was the disco girl, suddenly turned into like sitting for hours and praying and chanting. And especially I love the Sufi ceremonies. So they're almost like darshans. You sit together. It has a structure from, starting you out, opening up your energy body into, let's say, more ecstatic states. And so during the passages of the ceremony, which became more ecstatic, I started having visions and I started seeing beings. And then also I started having a lot of more dreams even than before. But this time I recognized that there was some spiritual teaching in the dream. So that's how I kind of opened up my consciousness to receiving information. And at the time also, I followed like the fasting and, doing your daily mantra. So it was a pretty rigorous practice that I took up. And also at the same time, I started learning all the languages that are involved in the Sufi practice, which is, Arabic and Turkish and Persian. And so I got a whole new vista of another world with, beautiful abstract art. I mean, I wasn't into the politics. I just studied art and literature and poetry and mystical poetry. And I ended up also translating some Sufi poetry for a while. And so, yeah, that's how kind of my senses sharpened. And then in about 2014, that's when I started having dreams kind of parallel about different type of beings, which I then understood were galactics and crystals. It came kind of at the same time.
Right.
So I started to feel like that it's these different star families that are giving me the gifts. And since I didn't know any handicraft ever before, I didn't make anything before, I had to learn techniques, or I had to learn where to find crystals. So oftentimes I would ask if this is a good crystal company or this, or if they're high vibrational. Yeah. And then especially the crowns that I showed you, they are kind of complex with wiring. Yeah. So if I had questions, sometimes the beings would come in and just show it to me almost like in images, like, okay, so that's how you take the wire and then you twist it and stuff like that. So it was also a very interesting process, because I didn't like read books, so I didn't, do any jewelry courses. I just kind of knew I was going to be shown what I needed to know.
Wow. Do you think you've done that before in another life then?
Yes, that was the interesting revelation. I think especially when I started to read Dolores Cannon a lot, and I did a QHHT session, and then I realized, okay, well, definitely Atlantis, and then maybe even several times in Atlantis, and then definitely Egypt, and so many different layers came in, energy layers actually. And I did for a little while, I studied something called access consciousness, where you place your hands on these energy points in the head, and people facilitate healing for their clients. But whenever I would do it, I would get a flood of information from the person that I would deal with. And there would be Native American lives coming in. There would be other, sometimes galactics. Once, like, I had a lady, I didn't even know her, but, she wanted a healing. And so I saw like a huge mantis being, which I had never seen before in my life. And the mantis being in that experience was teaching, because she was an avid gardener. And it was the mantis that was helping her manifest that craft. So that practice, which I didn't do for so long, because then I needed more time for my crystals, again honed in my receptivity to different energies, different timelines. Even a lot of Native American came in, because I think it's very important where I live here. It definitely was Native American lands, probably the whole of the United States. And there is ancestral imprints, and there's many things they want us to know in order to heal ourselves, our lineage, and the land.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? I could see Egypt with you, but I mean, I sort of resonate a lot with Egypt, so I can see that in quite a lot of people that I have a connection with. I could sort of pick it up, so I could see you in Egypt times making jewelry. They used to make some lovely like necklaces and things, didn't they? So obviously somebody made them, didn't they? So
I think I do have visions of that, and I'm very connected to the priestesshood of Isis through dreams, and also waking experiences and making jewelry. A lot of the time Isis comes in, and so I got drawn into Egypt maybe only in 2017 or 18, and but then it started rolling, and I would get a lot of Isis, Osiris, Horus, and how the Trinity works, a lot of channeling of that. And for that, I did use a concentrated effort of a few months of going to the same place, same time, and receiving messages. So definitely a huge Egyptian connection. And even my mom always said, I wish I would have been a snake dancer in Egypt. So she's very connected already. He would have talked about that, but I've never gone. So I just couldn't travel so much. Just again, a big household, many people. And then after COVID, especially when, my kids moved back, which is great, but it adds to what I got to do.
I get that. Yeah, definitely. So when we talked a little bit earlier, you mentioned about Joseph and the Bible, so the connection to the dreams. So
yes, we were talking about Yeah, I think there is a whole tradition of dream interpretation in, many cultures, also the Native Americans. Actually, the Ojibwe have a practice, a custom, which is that when they have a dream that seems important or spiritual, what they will do, they will make a piece of jewelry or clothing or bracelet where they encode their dreams into it. And again, one morning I stood in my kitchen, it said Ojibwe, and I'm like, okay, gotta look up the Ojibwe. It was very fascinating to read about them, also because they have like many genders. They don't only have one, they have like 5 genders. Has something to do with spiritual maturity and heritage. So and then so in the I guess Old Testament, when Joseph gets abducted and he gets thrown into the hole, eventually he gets brought to the Pharaoh, and he has this love affair, or better, Zuleika, the Pharaoh's wife wants to be with Joseph, and then the Pharaoh gets mad and throws him into prison. And so in prison, he meets 2 other prisoners, and they both have different dreams, and he's able to predict what their fate would be. And then there's the famous dream where the Pharaoh has a dream and Joseph interprets it after he gets out of prison, that there will be 7 years of scarcity and 7 years of fullness, which assisted the kingdom and the Pharaoh to store food. And so, but I'm sure there's more instances of dream interpretation. This is just a very poignant one.
Bit of it, yeah. I hadn't heard that, so I thought that was really interesting. I think people would like to hear that as well. So, like, have you got a website that people can go to?
Yes, my website is called crystalixir.com, where I have also some of my jewelry featured. And it's CrystalIxir. And again, I was like, what's my website supposed to be called, guys? And so I went back and forth, and it's putting together crystal and elixir. So basically the jewelry is like living elixir. The crystals are living elixirs.
I will pop a link to it down below so people can go and have a look. So you're in the States, and you ship everywhere, do you? All around the world?
Yes, I do, surprisingly enough. And we're actually coming back to my original idea of being a businesswoman and traveling around the world. Now I travel around the world virtually all the time. Because I talk to my clients, and it's often such interesting conversations because they're all spiritual seekers and manifestors. And then I get these phases, like it was last year for like 5 months, I was sending things to Ireland all the time.
I love Ireland,
Dragons, and then a lot of Herkimer necklaces. And I found it so uplifting to talk, mostly ladies, and they were all so nice. And it was such a beautiful, like, positive exchange. And now we're a little bit more in Eastern Europe, which actually I hadn't sent many things there. So there's Croatia, Poland, Hungary. And then, of course, at the same time, sometimes I remember my history courses, but I will look something up about the country or the culture, especially about Ireland. I learned a lot at the time because I realized there is a reason why this comes now. So I get informed and try to also tune in. And I had Ireland on the radar a little bit before, and I was just fascinated by the Tuatha De Danann. And sometimes figures would come in from Ireland, and the mythic stories, and sometimes that would come as that energy imprints, because the Tuatha De Danann, I feel, linked back to Egypt and Atlantis. So they have a very deep heritage. And it's interesting because here where I live, there used to be a Native American tribe about 30 miles east at the tip. I'm at like a half island, and at the tip of the island, there's Montauk. And there used to be a tribe called the Montaukets. And not much is transmitted about them, and they were thrown out in the beginning of the 20th century. But they, in their own accounts, actually talk about how they related to their heritage in Egypt and Atlantis. And interesting enough, most of their last names is Pharaoh. So it's built in to their lineage. And then, of course, what happened in Montauk, which not so many people know, but it is one of the major vortices in the world, because the most secret military experiments were actually conducted there. Something was built there. It was all about time travel, psychic experiments, and some became very dark. But they could only do that because the vortex that the Montaukets had established with some other tribes to come visit was so extremely powerful. And so, so that is, everything's always connected. It's amazing.
Yeah. So have you been to that spot then that you were just telling me about, that area?
Yeah, I go there a lot. Yeah, I'm pretty much completed. You know how gatekeepers and gatekeepers complete their missions. So, but I used to go there like at least 2, 3, 4 times a year, especially if I would have a dream or a vision that certain crystals needed to go. And then I would do that.
Yeah. And how about Ireland? Have you been to Ireland?
Nope, never been to Ireland. Yeah. Sometimes I think it's interesting if you haven't been to a country and you go virtually because you're so interested. Or let's say with Egypt, I had 3 different friends that, you know, went all over Egypt and would send me videos and pictures. Sometimes I feel when you don't see something, you can be more open to receive the energy of something.
Your work,
yeah. So
you'll love the Irish. I go there I did up until lockdown. I used to go there a lot, so I have quite a lot. A lot of people in Ireland that I work with, and they're very open to everything sort of spiritual, and they're lovely people.
Lovely.
And my daughter would love it.
Yeah, my daughter just went to Ireland, so I got a view. She would send me videos and photos, and it was just amazing landscapes. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it is lovely experience there. How about the UK? Have you been to London?
I've been to London. That was very way back in the 80s, because that was still when I was in this like more active in the Sufi path, and I visited. At the time, there was a very famous teacher that lived there. And so I went for a couple of weeks. Also had a girlfriend there that I met up with. So, I don't know if I found London challenging, just because I didn't. Yeah, I guess because I was so concentrated on also what I want to accomplish. But I resonated most with William Blake's paintings in the museum, I would say, and some of the flea markets my friend took me. But big cities have never been my thing, even though I've lived in them. So, you know, but I loved it.
I wondered about Glastonbury, whether you were drawn to that, because a lot of people go there to do grid work.
Yes, I'm drawn to Glastonbury for sure, and even a lot of other sites. But the interesting thing is that was still in, I think, 2014. I one night had a dream, and I was walking up a big hill, and then inside the hill, there was almost like an apartment with wraparound kind of windows. And in that place, I was rejoining another channeler that I used to be good friends with, and I loved her channeling. She did both Galactics and Angel. She's called Meline Lafont. And so I had a dream where I was with her in like a beautiful bed in this beautiful apartment with all windows around. And I was like, that hill is so beautiful. And then it turns out that my friend went to Glastonbury a few months later and sends me pictures, and like, wait a minute, that was my dream. So that's how I saw Glastonbury first, was through my dream. And then I read about it a lot. So also in the ancient times, there were actually some dwellings underneath for like spiritual teachers, magicians, all kinds of stuff. So there was actually that type of a situation. But yeah, I would love to go.
Yeah,
you know,
you need to get over, don't you, to come and see some of these places.
Yes, yeah. And Stonehenge, Avebury, you know, those stone circles also in Ireland. Oh, yeah, hopefully soon we'll see like a world trip.
I'm off to Egypt soon, so I'm going to the
great. When are you going?
in a couple of months.
Ah,
Um,
blessings on the
I,
trip.
I've been to Egypt many times, but I
Mhm.
haven't actually been to the pyramids. So I feel very called to go to the pyramids this time.
Yes.
So I expect to get some sort of activation going when I go there.
Yeah.
So I will try and get
Yeah.
early and see if I can get some time by myself in the main pyramid there, and see if I can. And the Sphinx, I'm also very drawn to that as well.
Yeah. Sphinx. Yeah, it's interesting that the Sphinx has come. I mean, I've always loved the Sphinx once I got into Egypt,
Yeah.
but the Sphinx has been coming in recently even more. And I always knew there was layers there. There's some kind of maybe Akashic, but I always see more like a galactic library underneath, because I would get like visions of these walls with like books and
Mm.
scrolls and writings and stuff. But recently, I started working more also with the elf figures, crystal figures. Some of them started talking extensively about ley lines, vortices, and then a few of the different crystal elves came in, and they were talking about the different layers of the Sphinx. I mean, energetic layers with different rays, some corresponding to chakras, others not, also corresponding to galactic imprints. And then the water underneath holds a lot of mysteries, a lot of memory also. So yeah, the Sphinx, I definitely feel like I lived very close to the Sphinx in one
Yeah.
lifetime.
Yeah, I want to sense for myself what's actually. I heard recently that NASA have own part of whatever goes on underneath the Sphinx and the
Yeah,
pyramids. So there's
makes
obviously
sense.
tunnels and all sorts of things. Some even say there's a spaceship stored under
Yes.
there. But
Yeah, that I heard a long time ago, actually. Yeah. I mean, if it's not an actual physical spaceship, it's definitely space technology for
yeah,
sure.
there's
So
something under there, isn't there?
Mhm.
So I don't know what I'm going to receive when I get there, but I do think I'm going to receive something. So yeah, I'm
Yes, yeah, you look like you're like almost there already.
yeah, yeah, I think energetically I'm there. If I
Yeah.
could have got there sooner, I would have got there sooner. So yeah, I'm quite interested to see what that. What would you recommend as a crystal to take to Egypt, to those
Uh,
areas?
well, interesting enough, sometimes I get global crystal missions, and there was one with clear Lemurians from Colombia from a very special dealer. The other set was golden Lemurian healers, and every time I had to find somebody to start at the Sphinx. So at the Sphinx, there's a clear Lemurian beautiful wand, and then the golden healer wand, and then a lot of my clients would go to like maybe Africa, Australia, wherever they went, and then these crystals would go around to all the different vortices. Uluru also, I would try to find the most amount of people that were going places to plant, because when my guides show me something like a vision where a crystal has to go around the globe, then it's very important. So I have to find the right crystals. But I would think for you, I would think that should be a personal crystal that's important personally to you, because when you go there, you know how your full, like your energy imprint and body gets like activated, probably especially in the pyramids. So it's good to have something that is personally resonating with you right now in a very high place. But I can send you that. I'll tune into you and I'll send you what I think would be great
Oh,
to
that'd be
take.
brilliant. Thank you. I think I don't know how often I'm going to get there. So this has been a time in waiting to actually get there. So I
Yes.
think I just want to have a I'm sure I'm going to have a really good experience at a good time, but get the most out of the sort of activation or whatever's coming for me
Yeah.
when I get there. So I was thinking, what crystals could I take apart from
Yeah.
wearing them? But
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been drawn to. Is it strawberry quartz or something like? I know it's a pinky color. Recent.
Interesting. Yeah. It's like a pinkish, reddish, depending of how much of the iron element is in there, I guess. Um, Strawberry quartz is interesting because it doesn't, well, some people really love it, but it doesn't come up a lot with me, but I like it personally a lot. I like red crystals a lot because I feel they're very much relate to a lot of times to our blood, but also to the female expression, the womb, and all of those things. So I do love, there's a whole range of red crystals, and some are actually man-made, which I don't mind because they still elemental. I mean, there's still, you know, sand or melted this elements in it. So I don't mind that so much. Yeah, so maybe it'll be a strawberry quartz. You'll see.
Well, I usually buy a crystal from wherever I go. So I'm hoping that I know they're known for their turquoise. So if I can find some there,
yeah,
that. But I don't know what else they've got there. So this ring that I've got in here, I got this in Glastonbury. So this is a ruby.
Oh, ruby, yes. See, red crystal, ruby. Yeah. I've been working a lot recently because it has something to do with the goddess priestess, very high frequency priestess and goddess lineages and full manifestation of the cosmic womb, the womb that's informed by the heart and the heart informed by the womb. So the energy of really vast compassion and and men can manifest it too, but it's easier to show in a female body, or let's say it's more naturally installed in a female body, because if we relate to ourselves and the womb and the breasts, and it's all about like giving, receiving, naturally nurturing. So yeah, the ruby I would definitely take.
Yeah, I'll probably take that with me then. Have you written a book?
No, my daughter said I should, but I haven't. I will maybe eventually. Yeah, it's just like I'm so busy with just working with the crystals. It takes all the psychic energy or spiritual energy that I can expand. So, and I haven't even made crystal grids so much because there's so much going on right now, or let's say for the last 3 years. A lot of things are shifting and being reorganized. And so, I need most of my energy for that. So, but hopefully maybe starting with making little notes and then see where that goes.
Yeah. Because a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, I would love to write about the crystals and their different galactic connections and their different star, planetary, universal connections. And like for the Arcturians, for example, which you love so much, a lot of the time amethyst comes in, charoite, which is a very high, like a valuable purple crystal. Sometimes what I'm wearing, tanzine aura, comes in because it's also slightly purple. Sometimes other colors, but there's predominant, let's say, crystals with predominant galactic encodings or able to awaken that in a person. And then I love Andromedans. I do meditate there a lot, and they have a lot of knowledge of like colors and geometries and how they can translate in crystals and energies. So it gives people a very deep connection to the universe, because Andromeda is so very close to our Earth, Tara, So yeah, I work with actually many different galactics, and I love it because it always feels very uplifting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you feel like you get supercharged after? Do you find trouble sleeping after you've been doing this?
Sometimes it's actually always varies. I mean, I do get also sometimes tired because channeling takes up a lot of your physical energy, and then I need to eat. I need to eat regularly. Sometimes, especially if new energies come in, I get very charged, because what happens sometimes is that a whole crystal family gets uploaded or upgraded into a new level. And for the past 2-3 years, I've been working with Lyra star family a lot, and there's different councils. There's one council that works more with the golden yellow crystals, another one more with the white diamond, or the transparent crystals like Herkimer. And there's different intensities with these different councils, and then they teach me, and I make grids so I can actually bring the energy into the world and people can receive it. So
yeah. Oh, wonderful. So if somebody's looking for a crystal at the moment as a starting space, what would you recommend that somebody starts with if they want to activate something within themselves, heighten their intuitive or psychic abilities?
I think the ideal would be to go in a crystal store and just hold crystals.
Yeah.
You know, when you hold them, you either get a tingling or your heart starts having an emotion. Then if you can't do that, you can of course go on the computer, go on Etsy or whatever, and or you know, if you have a certain color in mind, you can just put in red crystals or purple crystals, or and then just work with the image intuitively and order one. And yeah, ideally it's to get something that's really connected to you. But I think most people would be able to see
it's
a picture
personal thing, isn't it? Yeah.
I need this and I needed this. That was like 5 years ago when I saw I saw it on the internet and I was like, I almost fainted. And so then I researched about it. Eventually these were expensive, so I had to save up a little bit. But that was one of those crystals was like, oh my God, yes, please. And then I read up on it and the history in Atlantis and stuff like that. So yeah, it has to be that real, like, I need this. Like, you know,
you got to have it, haven't you? Yeah. And what's that one called again that you just showed us? That lovely pinky one?
Well, these they don't make anymore right now. It's called Ruby Lavender. They were actually supposedly the only person that sold it was at Mount Shasta, and he said he bought it up from a military depot. And so actually the military and NASA work a lot with crystals, and also now the supercomputers. So there's a lot of new, but and laser crystals. So I think this is probably a lab created crystal with certain very fine elements in it. It's probably yttrium, which is a very rare element, and then it makes it this color mixed with the quartz. So yeah, that's a whole other science, the Fogel wands and the Atlantean wands, and the you know, the crystals where they do you know, like the aura quartz, they're all infused with precious metals and they're taken into a vacuum chamber. And so they're more expensive because a lot of them break. And so for the blue one, there is gold and indium in it. And for the other colors, there's all precious metals. And those are the crystals that I love a lot because I can relate that this is Atlantean technology, and they would infuse different metals to have hyperconductivity, maybe also to create technology of teleportation and spaceships and stuff like that. So yeah, but also these they don't make anymore either. So there's always times and waves, and I like hoarded them, thank God. So I still have some.
Oh wow. And what's your thoughts on actually the what should we call them, ETs, extraterrestrials, actually walking amongst us now on Earth?
I kind of feel so, but I mean, I feel we're all extraterrestrials and have maybe bigger or smaller imprints according to our soul journey of certain kind of galactics. That's why we can relate to them. That's why we can channel them. We couldn't channel something or relate to something that's not already like from within. And so, yeah, and then I feel definitely some of the younger generation that is being born, like I have a niece that's about 1. I'm like blown away. Like it's angelic, galactic, it's so pure, it's new, you know. So yeah, I feel some people you can even just see, like some people just look Pleiadian. I mean, you get like a little hint, like, or some people do look more Arcturian. And actually my daughter suggested, you know, like because our cats are all from like various planets, my daughter said you should like, you know, write that up, like about the cats and where they come from, and even like maybe you know, offer that as channeling. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting idea, you know.
Do you do actual channeling, that you record it? I mean, have you got a YouTube channel or anything?
No. I have them written down and I posted them on Facebook for a little while. And then I did a show where a radio blog show where actually there was a discount for my necklaces, and then as a special for each creation that I created, I wrote a little channel how it relates to the person. So I saved all of those things, but I don't know. They're like all over just my phone. I can find them, but I might offer it because I actually recently was shown that to offer that as part of my offerings. And then people can decide if they want to get a little bracelet or a crystal to what, you know, so that they can actually embody what was channeled for them and fully evolve in it.
Yeah, that sounds like a brilliant idea, because I know a lot of people want a bit more information, don't they? They don't just want a crystal or just a bracelet. They want more these
Yeah,
days.
people love information, and I think it's beautiful. But then on the other end, sometimes I think people get too much stuck on information. Whereas, like, if you get a necklace that was personally made for you, it just the information comes just to you yourself, and it pops out. But you know, I love all of it. So
it's so fascinating lives we live, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very internal. Like, I don't have to go to many places. I can just sit, you know. Well, I go to the ocean because that's like relaxing, and you know.
Yeah, I do. I'm near the sea as well, so I actually will go after we finished our conversation. I should go down to the beach and walk along.
It's amazing. And we've had a lot of whales come in, and whales have been communicating with me for a while also, especially some of the whale families are connected to the Orion belt stars, and you know, they bring so much ancient wisdom and also so much love. And so quite a few times I saw whales breaching, and you see dolphins. So there's a lot of cetaceans around us right now. And I know they're just, first of all, they're stimulating the ocean and the water with their sounds. So they're upgrading the waters and the molecules and everything. And then they're sending us everything they can give. They just give, you know. So that's why I'm so glad they've been around for about 5 years, and it feels really beautiful and nourishing.
Oh, that's wonderful. So how do you feel about people connecting to you on Facebook? Have you got a private group, or should they just send you a friend request?
Yes, I try to do like other like kind of groups or other pages, but actually my main page is the best because I also post the most, so people can see the different offerings and also the grids that they can use for themselves. So that's really the fastest way to contact.
They could probably follow you, couldn't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, my actual main page is quite closed down. I just use my group mostly to post.
Interesting. Yeah. I know that happens. Right now, my main page is still the most active, and it's under Sixtina Friedrich. I mean, first and last name. So
so I will pop everything down at the bottom here of the video so people can find you and follow you, and hopefully buy your wonderful jewelry that you're going to make for. That I channel it in. It just gives me shivers when I think about it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Something's coming in right now, but I'm not sure. Like, did you feel it? Do you feel like some like woo?
Yes, I've gone all hot.
What?
Yeah, I've gone all hot as well. I've gone all hot.
Yes, something came in, and it looks kind of white and diamondish, and it could be, maybe it is Lyra family because they're kind of like angelic and galactic at the same time. A little bit maybe also feline energies. Woo! We're just.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that I had a conversation with my friend earlier today, and the other day I had like a vision of 2 angelic beings, and they were twin flames. So they were like blonde, big blue eyes, big blue sparkling eyes, and they looked the same, but you could tell one was masculine and one was feminine. They didn't really have legs. It sort of was a big body, sort of went down like that. And I was having this conversation with them, and they were telling me a bit about twin flames and stuff like that. So there is a bit of a shift of energy going around me at the moment. I can feel it. So I don't know if it's something connected to that you've just picked up on. But
I was going to call my necklaces twin flame necklaces. I mean, I named them bliss necklaces now, but I was going to call them twin ray necklaces actually, because I mean, of course, it's beautiful to also have the romantic and divine partnership as humans. But I realized the most important is that inner union of divine male and female. And then out of that, the birth, of the children of the heart. So that's why but then I was like, who's going to relate to that? So
Yeah, well, there's lots that do, aren't they? People are just drawn to people, aren't they? It's an
Yes.
energy thing, isn't it? I always tell all my clients it's just a frequency thing. So get your frequency sorted out and
Yeah.
they come to you, don't they? So yeah, I'm very happy to make the connection with you, and I loved
Thank
our
you.
conversation. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for today. I
Yeah.
really appreciate your time. Like I said, I'll
Yeah.
put everything down below the video so people can connect to you, and hopefully we'll have another conversation at
Yeah.
some
After
point near
Egypt.
Egypt. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
fill you in on Egypt. I'll let you know how I get on. So
Yeah. Okay. So
thank
much love
you.
to you. And thank you too.
Thank
Blessings.
you. Thank
Thank
you.